So I'm very excited for this next session where we're going to explore India as a breeding ground for startups, scale-ups, unicorns, and beyond. A few facts to get us started. After the US and China, India is the top startup ecosystem for value creation. Listen to this, 450 billion US dollars created, and now over 90 unicorns in India. So please do welcome my first guest for this panel. We have Bengaluru born and bred, chairman of Aaron Capital and chairman of Manipal Global Education, Mohandas Pai. Welcome.
Thank you.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
So tell me, first of all, you've described India as a startup nation. The internet is on a high growth trajectory. I think that's putting it pretty lightly, actually. The cost of data among the lowest in the world, half the population on the internet. So tell me what surprises you most.
What surprises me most is the extent of adoption of the internet and the digital world over the last 5 years. It has been an extraordinary journey, and I think no country in the world has done as much as India did. It started in 2015 when our Prime Minister, the Independence Day, spoke about the vision of a digital India, a startup India, and a stand-up India. I don't think many people in this country understood what his vision was, and you must give credit to him. And that led to a series of things that have led to India becoming a startup nation. And we had Jio come and change the entire world, entire country, whereby they gave unlimited data at 100 rupees, $1.5 a month. So everybody could afford it. And that is what surprised me, the extent where people adopted this. Then the government came out with public goods like Aadhaar. 1.2 billion people have a number. Happened in India, didn't happen in UK.
Yep.
And then we have about 1.1 billion mobile connection, happen in India. And then we also had 450 million accounts, bank accounts being opened. And the government is transferred $350 billion to people by DBT over the last 7 years and saved about maybe about $100 billion in money that was being, ill-spent or taken away by somebody else. So the extent of digital penetration of India has been an extraordinary story, and we living in this country ourselves are trying to come to grips with it. So what is going to happen in the future is going to be even more exciting.
You've pointed out that the internet and internet companies aren't necessarily all they're cracked up to be. Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet are now expansionist monopolies. So should India take a different path as it builds these startups to scale-ups and beyond, and as the tech universe becomes even more global?
To me, the biggest threat to humanity in this planet are these expansionist digital monopolies. They control the way we live our lives. Our data is there. They know exactly what you're going to eat later, what you're going to buy, where you're going to dress, where you live, and they can manipulate your thoughts.
Yep.
You can see in the big hack what they did, right? So that is the biggest danger. What the world needs today, the minister is here, a universal declaration of digital rights, like the universal declaration of human rights that we had in 1949. So for all the people on the planet, our digital rights are secure. What India needs to do is to make sure that all the data of Indians resides in India, not in a server in the United States where the NSA can snoop on us, and they're snooping on us. 2, our data should belong to Indians, so nobody can use our data without permission. They must pay us. And 3rd, we want our government to have sovereignty over our data, because the only people who protect us against big tech is our government. Twitter can turn you off. Google can shut you off. And everybody can do this. We've seen in this latest sanction how all these companies have joined the US to shut off Russia. Now, we need to have an international covenant that this cannot happen. Now, you happen to be on the right side of the war or whatever it is. There could be others who are independent like India. Now, just because we're independent, somebody wants to arm twist us, we should not be. So we are talking to government to make sure we create an ecosystem in this country which will secure some of the things that we have, because we have the tech, we have the capital, we have everything else. And China has done it very well. Communist, totalitarian regime, but they protected themselves. And India is a very large country, and India has to. I'm sure Europe will also look at it very differently now, especially after what has happened. I think they're the threat, and we must make sure we protect our data and do everything to secure. See, to me, it's a question of individual liberty. I don't want to be a widget or a piece of data on somebody's server in the US. I'm sure you don't like that.
Nope, don't like that either. Well, tell me, you mentioned there that a moment ago about the internet penetration. Now, part of this is what it means for e-commerce. E-commerce penetration in India is expected to grow at a faster rate than the US. What's the significance of that?
Well, the significance of that is very clear, that the platforms are going to have a unique selling ability for everybody, driven by capital. But we have a dark side. And the dark side is we have millions of people who are small shopkeepers. That's the only means of livelihood. We can't hurt them. Government has to protect them. Because, we are a society. A society is not a business. It consists of people. People have to earn their livelihood. They have got capital. They have got technology. Now, these are simple, unsophisticated folks who earn a decent living, a small living. We have to protect them. So India has to balance. And the balance can be by making sure they remain as platforms and don't hold the entire chain, which is the government of India's policy, so that we get the benefits of technology, lower cost, better supply chain. At the same time, the distribution points are with the local shops who also make a little bit of money. So I think India needs to balance it out. You've seen in the US what has happened. The mom and shops are gone. There are big companies doing everything. Nothing wrong with that. But the US earns $60,000. We just earn $2,200 a year. We are a poor country. We are a poor country. We have 1 billion people who live less than $1,000 a year. So we have to protect them. And that's why I commend the government for the e-commerce policy. We cannot be like the US. We have to open up. We have to invite them. They have to help. But it has to be people first. It cannot be technology first or big companies first. People first, because a society consists of people, and we have to take care of people.
I agree with that. Tell me about the unicorns. India's 93 and growing unicorns have created 300 billion US dollars. I mean, the numbers are staggering, right, in value. The current predictions are that there'll be over 200 unicorns in India by 2025, which is around the corner.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that picture. I mean, it's kind of staggering, but put it into context for us.
Look, the West doesn't understand how big a country India is in technology. In IT services, we're going to export $170 billion this year. It is the largest export in the world. 60% of global outsourcing comes here. 5 million people are employed in the industry. And this year, we hired 500 to 600,000 people. In the next 2 years, we're going to hire 1.2 to 1.5 million people in technology. The largest hiring in technology is going to be in India. And they have changed the way things are. By 2025, we'll have more people in technology in the United States, which is number 1 today. Today, Bangalore has 2.1 million people in technology, more than Silicon Valley. So it is large, but it's in services. Now, on top of services, we're getting the startups and everything else, and they're going to grow. So I think we'll cross the 200 unicorns, maybe go to 250, because we are seeing the momentum of capital coming in, capital being invested, and enormous innovation happening by people. In our office, we get 500 to 600 startups visiting us, sending proposals to us every month for capital. Never seen this in my life. And the enormous upsurge of entrepreneurship, use of technology, because these are all bright people. In a country of 1.4 billion people, you will have every year 10 million people graduating from college, and of which 1 million are the top of the world, and they're doing very well. And people underestimate us because you go on the streets, it's not like the UK or not like the US. But the technology here, their strength, their ability to design and think is unbelievable talent. And I think this is going to be India's strength in future, the force multiplier. And lastly, we are the only country in the world which can provide human capital for technology for the West. Out of 6 million people in the US working in technology, 1 million are Indians there. Out of 5 million working in India, 2.5 million work for American companies. Out of 9 million working for American companies globally, 3.5 million are Indians. And in the next 2 years, maybe another 1 million will work for American companies. This is the source of human capital. And I think if India dries up, it's going to be tough for America. We have become the force multiplier for America, for the Googles, the Intels, and everybody else. We got 450 of the Fortune 500 companies having their labs and technology done in Bangalore.
So how can you export that knowledge elsewhere now?
Where?
Would you like to, where do you think that we could see India having more influence? We had a session a moment ago about global diplomacy. Obviously, technology has a huge role to play within diplomacy.
Let me tell you one thing. The US did a wonderful thing when they found East Germany and Russia winning all the Olympic awards. It seemed the president had a meeting and said, what should we do to beat them? They issued a visa to every sportsman around the world to come. Open up H1B for India. To the US, and you open up in the UK. UK requires technology to be a dominant technology power in Europe, especially after Brexit. After Brexit, UK's future lies in technology. And innovation will not come from the people in the UK because it's too small. You need India as a force multiplier. Use India as a platform. And you will conquer the world. And you will be the next global hegemon like you were 200 years ago with Indian technology, hopefully Indian management too. I'm serious. Because I think this country has extraordinary people. See, China can be doing the same thing, but the Chinese are not attuned to an Anglo-Saxon work culture. We are very Anglo-Saxon in a business approach. And we should work together, sign an agreement, allow any Indian with technology or STEM to come to the UK and work in technology. 100,000 people come to the UK for 2 years. We'll transform the UK.
There you go. You heard it right there. Now, you mentioned investment as well, and besides the US, the international investment companies, part of building any ecosystem, I'm originally from the other Silicon Valley, the original Silicon Valley. Besides those companies, we also have Indian venture companies. And tell me about the importance of that and what that does.
We are open to global capital, 100% FDI in technology. In services, we have IBM, everybody here. Last year, we got about $42 billion of capital coming in. Sadly, only 10% is Indian, for two reasons. Our Indian capitalistic class is a rent-seeking class. They want to invest in real estate and some other legacy companies rather than become billionaires by joining all this. I think we'll have more billionaires from the tech industry next year than billionaires produced from all other industries because these guys know how to raise capital. That's one. Second, our tax laws are very perverse. We are being Indians in our country, which I won't tell the Honorable Minister, we are taxed more than you as a foreign investor if you invest in a startup. We spoke to Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman today. I hope you raise it when she comes tomorrow. To have the same tax for India, poor Indians who live here, like you, a rich person from the UK investing, have the same tax. I think these are two things. We need more Indian capital to come.
All right, you mentioned billionaires, but let's look at the other end of the scale. How do you use technology how do you use Indian technology to bring the internet to the 50% of the world not yet on the internet?
Well, let me talk about 50% of India who are not there. We have 265 million children in school. Out of them, about 130 million study in government schools. We have to give a tablet with rich multimedia content from a Baiju or Unacademy to those 100 million people. It will cost us possibly about maybe 100 billion, I mean, not in 100, but 25, 30 billion dollars. And there's money in the Universal Service Obligation Fund. I hope Prime Minister Modi says that every kid in a government school in class 6 and above will be given a free tablet along with rich multimedia content because we have wireless all over. And if we spend that kind of money in the next 2 years, which you can easily afford, India can afford it, we'll transform this country. Because once you get the children, next 50 years, they're all digital natives. And you'll be very surprised. Vasundhara Rajesh, a former Chief Minister of Rajasthan, started a program by which she said all women above 50 in the villages will be given a smart device from Jio. She had 50,000 young girls go train them. No, these are traditional women who stay secluded, wear a gungat. These are very conservative people. They had this thing. They had the window to the world. So we can do it. We require Prime Minister Modi and Minister to take a decision. And tomorrow when Finance Minister comes, possibly you should tell her.